At a party in their home in Jesus' honor, Mary again sits at his feet and pours an expensive perfume on them, only to be harshly criticized by Judas Iscariot for such an extravagantly wasteful act. He said, "Why was this perfume not sold for 300 denarii and the money given to the poor?" There's nothing in any of these stories to suggest that Mary was ever put off Jesus because of the dramas which seemed to rage around her every time she went near him. Her devotion to him was very simple, very profound, and very unshakable. And Jesus always defended her. "Leave her alone," he told the critical Judas. "Mary is doing the better thing," he told the complaining Martha. Mary models to us someone who puts Jesus first, to the exclusion of any concerns about what other people are thinking or saying about her, without ever worrying that she may be doing the wrong thing. But Jesus is quick to defend her actions. In his eyes, what she has done is a beautiful thing. And this act is quite clearly the focal point of this entire story. And what Mary does for Jesus is a moving expression of her love for him. First, there's the generosity of her love. We see this in the fact that she took a pound of costly perfume made of pure nard. Nard is an oil-like perfume extracted from a root grown in India. Definitely not one of the lower quality brands sold at the Bethany supermarket. She gave the most precious thing that she possessed, and she expended it all on Jesus. There's nothing that so delights the heart of Jesus as loving devotion from his disciples. Something done expressly out of love for him. Jesus' response does not imply a lack of concern for the poor, but a simple recognition of an act of pure devotion. Oh, it may be foolish, but it was sincere. Love does not always stop and think. It gives recklessly, sometimes without counting the cost. Love is not love at all if it is always calculating the cost of any and every action. I remember learning at school that well-known prayer of St. Ignatius Loyola. "Teach me, O Lord, to give and not to count the cost." Real love, like Mary's, is generous. It does not count the cost. Secondly, there's the humility of her love. Did you notice in our reading that Mary anointed Jesus' feet? Now, you don't have to be an Old Testament scholar to know that it was the head, not the feet, that was normally anointed. For example, there's that well-known phrase in Psalm 23, "You anoint my head with oil." It was a great honor to anoint someone's head. We can see very vividly the humility of Mary. She did not think of herself as conferring an honor upon Jesus. She never dreamed that she was good enough to do that. And yet she wanted to show her love. So she anointed Jesus' feet, not as an honor which she conferred on him, but as an expression of respect and love, which was the least she could pay him. It was the giving of her very best in all humility. And thirdly, there's the simplicity of her love. Mary wiped Jesus. So Mary is clearly moved by deepest feelings of loyalty and being willing to brave the inevitable social disapproval. The effect on the atmosphere is immediate and pervasive as the whole house fills with the fragrance of Mary's deed, both physically and emotionally. Mary wipes Jesus' feet with her hair as an expression of her love for him. She's not worried about what other people might think of her. there's the simplicity of her love, a simplicity which speaks of her sincerity. Mary's simple act of devotion has become a light to multitudes in every corner of the world. Sincere service of Jesus, however much it may be opposed, has a capacity to touch and bless other lives, a capacity which is missing from acts of merely legalistic piety. Others will be blessed when we serve Jesus, perhaps, as in Mary's case, far beyond our dreams. The other characters in these stories model more familiar kinds of behaviour. When Martha complained she was doing all the housework, Jesus put his finger on her real problem. Martha, you are worried and distracted by many things. There is need of only one thing. Hey, and what about Judas? He was so obsessed by money that he'd lost his perspective on everything else going on around him. He couldn't see the beauty in Mary's action. To him, it was a financial transaction, and a bad one at that. Sadly, worries and distractions, unhealthy obsessions, discouragement and cruel bondage are still with us today. They are the reason why people like Mother Teresa are thought of as being very good but strange, or why that priest in Dover was regarded as a troublemaker rather than a faithful follower of Jesus. What causes us to be wrapped up in these unhealthy attitudes? Well, they're all tied up in our concern to define who we are. We all feel the need to do this, to say, this is me. This is how you can know who I am. Unfortunately, the only way we seem to be able to meet this need is by defining ourselves in opposition to others. I'm not like him, we say. I wouldn't go where they go. I wouldn't do what she does. I'm who I am because I'm not like him or her. And so Martha has to say, I'm not like Mary, idling around. Hey, look at me, busy, being useful. And Judas has to say, I'm not like Mary, wasting all that money. If it was up to me, I'd do something far better with it. What's different about Mary is that she steps outside this framework of identity. She defines herself in another way. Or perhaps more accurately, she allows herself to be defined by Jesus. Rather than say, I'm not like them, Mary says, I want to be like Jesus. Rather than say, I wouldn't go where they go, Mary says, I want to be where he is. And rather than say, I wouldn't do what she does, Mary says, I want to do what Jesus does. You see, Mary has learned about God's grace. She's not in competition with anyone. Rather, she has learned simply to accept God's free gift to her. Jesus came to Mary as he comes to us, freely, openly, with no strings attached. Mary simply reaches out and receives him every time. Not worried about the consequences, not distracted by how others would see her, free of unhealthy obsessions, encouraged by Christ, not discouraged, encouraged by Christ, Mary seems almost otherworldly to us, caught up as we are in our crisis of identity. But Mary wasn't otherworldly. She was a sister, a friend, an ordinary woman to whom Jesus came in precisely the same way as he comes to us, in compassion and with unconditional love.
Abel.